There is a silent, brutal tax being levied on your hard work right now, and most people don't even realize they're paying it. We were raised on a specific, almost sacred lie that the person who puts in the most hours, the person who polishes their craft until it's perfect, is the one the world eventually rewards. But look around. The market doesn't seem to care about your effort anymore. It doesn't care about the midnight oil you burned or the meticulous care you took. In the modern economy, high quality has become the baseline. It's no longer the differentiator. Instead, there is a new invisible currency that has taken over: velocity. We are living through a fundamental shift where the person who is 70% ready but moves at 10x the speed is consistently out-earning and outpacing the genius who is waiting for 100% certainty. This isn't just about working fast, it's about a psychological mechanism in the modern brain that prioritizes feedback over finish lines. If you feel like you're running on a treadmill, working harder than ever but watching the rewards go to people who seem less qualified than you aren't imagining things. You are simply playing by the rules of an era that ended 20 years ago. In this video, we're going to deconstruct the speed-wealth paradox. We're going to explore why the modern system has evolved to punish perfectionism and reward aggressive iteration. We'll look at the neuroscience of feedback loops and how you can rewire your own output to stop being a hard worker and start becoming a high-velocity mover. By the end of this deep dive, you will have a clear framework to reclaim your time and ensure your effort actually translates into equity and influence rather than just exhaustion. If you value deep dives into the human mind and the mechanics of wealth, subscribe and join us. Let's look at why the window of opportunity is closing faster than ever before. The most dangerous ghost in our culture is the grandfather's advice. It's that voice in the back of your head telling you that if you just put your head down, do a good job, and refine your craft, the world will eventually knock on your door. This was the industrial age contract. Input equals output. But in the digital age, that contract has been shredded. Think about the last project you poured your heart into. You spent weeks, maybe months, polishing the details. You wanted it to be undeniable. And then you launched it. Maybe it was a business idea, a content piece, or a proposal. And the result? Silence. Meanwhile, you see someone else, someone who clearly spent half the time and half the effort, putting out something good enough every single week, and they are the ones getting the traction, the clients, and the capital. It feels insulting, doesn't it? It feels like the world has lost its taste for quality. But the truth is more clinical than that. We are suffering from what psychologists call the sunk cost of perfection. We mistake our own sweat for market value. We assume that because something was hard to create, it must be valuable to receive. But here is the micro-shock. The market doesn't pay for your labor. It pays for the solution to its boredom or its problems. And in a world that moves at the speed of fiber optic cables, a perfect solution that arrives 2 months late is worth significantly less than a decent solution that arrives today. We've been conditioned to fear being wrong or unfinished, so we hide in the comfort of effort. We use polishing as a socially acceptable form of procrastination. We think we are being diligent, but we are actually just being slow. The system hasn't stopped rewarding quality. It has simply redefined quality to include timing. If you aren't in the conversation, you don't exist. And you can't be in the conversation if you're still at home obsessing over a detail that 99% of people will never even notice. You're playing a game of chess while the board is moving at 100 miles per hour. To understand why speed wins, we have to look at a concept called the information decay rate. In the 1950s, a specialized skill or a well-crafted product had a half-life of decades. You could afford to be slow because the target wasn't moving. Today, the target isn't just moving, it's teleporting. Every hour you spend perfecting your work in a vacuum is an hour the world spent changing. By the time you ship your perfect version, you aren't just late, you are irrelevant. The system rewards speed because speed is the only way to stay synchronized with reality. High-velocity movers understand something the perfectionist doesn't. The first version isn't the product. The first version is the probe. This leads us to a psychological mechanism known as Bayesian updating. Think of your career or your business as a series of bets. The person who puts in massive effort into one single perfect bet is gambling on being 100% right the first time. The high-velocity mover, however, makes 10 smaller, faster bets. Even if they are 70% wrong, they gain 10 times more data than you do. They are updating their internal map of the world while you are still staring at the starting line, trying to fold your map perfectly. Here is the microshock. In the modern world, quality is an emergent property of quantity. You don't get to high quality by thinking harder. You get there by failing faster. The person who publishes 50 okay videos learns more about what people actually want than the person who spends 6 months on one masterpiece that no one asked for. We've been taught that speed is the enemy of craft, but in a hyper-connected economy, speed is the source of craft. It allows for a tighter feedback loop. If you can shorten the time between idea and market feedback, you have a mathematical advantage that no amount of hard work can overcome. You are essentially out-learning your competition. But this raises a deeper, more uncomfortable question. If speed is so clearly superior, why is our instinct still to slow down and obsess over quality? Why does moving fast feel like we're cheating? If the data is so clear that speed and iteration win, why does it feel so viscerally wrong to rush things? Why do we feel a sense of guilt when we don't spend hundreds of hours on a single task? The answer lies in a psychological phenomenon called the labor-effort heuristic. We have been conditioned to believe that the difficulty of a task is a proxy for its value. If it was easy or fast, we tell ourselves it must be cheap. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Your insistence on perfection and slow, deep effort is often not a high standard. It's a defense mechanism. When you spend an extra 30 hours polishing a project that was already 90% done, you aren't doing it for the user or the customer. You're doing it for your own ego. You are terrified of being judged for a mistake, so you use effort as a shield. If you spend months on something and it fails, you can at least say, "I gave it my all." But if you move fast, ship it in 2 days, and it fails, that feels like a direct reflection of your lack of talent. Speed is a vulnerability. It forces you to stand naked before the world without the armor of hard work to protect you. Here is the microshock. Perfectionism is just procrastination in a suit and tie. It is a socially acceptable way of staying safe. By staying in the polishing phase, you never have to face the reality of the market. You're essentially choosing the comfort of effort over the risk of results. The realization you need to have is this: the world does not reward you for how much you suffered during the process. It rewards you for the transformation you provide. Once you detach your identity from the struggle of the work, you are free to move at a velocity that actually matches the modern era. You stop being a martyr of effort and start becoming an architect of outcome. You begin to realize that good enough delivered today is infinitely more valuable than perfect delivered never. Clarity comes from movement, not from meditation. There is a final cold truth we have to face. In a world of generative AI, instant global distribution, and infinite competition, the cost of delay has become exponential. We used to think of opportunity as a train. If you miss one, you just wait for the next. But in the current velocity of wealth, opportunity is more like a lightning strike. If you aren't standing in the right spot with your rod raised at the exact microsecond it hits, the energy is gone. It doesn't matter how hard you practiced raising the rod. Look at the project you are currently polishing. Look at the idea you've been sitting on because it's not quite there yet. Ask yourself, honestly, are you actually improving the quality, or are you just waiting for the fear to go away? Because while you are adjusting the margins and rethinking the font, someone else is already on their third failure. And because they failed 3 times while you were thinking, they now possess 3 pieces of market intelligence that you don't. They are literally becoming smarter than you in real time. Effort is a renewable resource. Time is not. The system doesn't hate your hard work, it's just that the system is no longer built to wait for it. The gap between the thinkers and the doers used to be a matter of months. Now it's a matter of hours. You can keep your high standards and your slow, methodical pace. You can keep your pride in doing things the right way. But don't be surprised when the world moves on without you. The system hasn't become unfair, it has simply become fast. And speed, unlike talent, is a choice. The question isn't whether you're capable of doing great work. The question is whether you're brave enough to do it fast enough for it to actually matter. History is written by the winners, but the future is being built by the people who are already on their next version. Where does that leave you?